If today food disappeared from the entire world, how long would you survive? 3 days? 1 week? Now imagine 7 years of famine. That is exactly what happened in Egypt. And in the middle of this chaos, one man did something that still divides opinions today. He saved the people, but at the same time concentrated all the wealth of the country. His name was Joseph. And the most impressive part, this plan did not come from modern economics. It came from God. And it is recorded in the book of Genesis. Today you will understand how he did it, why he did it, and how to use this same principle in your life. Everything begins with a problem that no one could solve. Pharaoh had a disturbing dream: fat cows being devoured by thin cows, full ears of grain being consumed by dry ones. And this was not a common dream, it was a warning. Pharaoh calls the wise men, the magicians, the experts of Egypt, and no one can explain it. Now think about this: the most powerful man in the world, with access to the best advisors, and no one has an answer. But the answer was not in the palace, it was in the prison. There was Joseph, forgotten, the same man who was betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. But even there, he had something that no one else had: the presence of God and the ability to receive direction from Him. Then something unexpected happens. An official of Pharaoh remembers Joseph, because years earlier, inside the prison, Joseph interpreted his dream with precision. And now, finally, Joseph's name reaches Pharaoh. They call Joseph in a hurry. He goes from the prison straight to the palace. No preparation, no time, no second chance. Now imagine the scene: a former prisoner, standing before the most powerful man on earth, and everything depends on what he will say. Joseph could try to impress, but he does the opposite. He says, "It is not in me. God will give the answer." Joseph makes it clear: the answer does not come from him, it comes from God. And then he reveals, there would be 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of devastating famine, a crisis so great that all the abundance would be forgotten. But here is the point that changes everything. They did not realize it was a warning about the future. But Joseph did something different. He did not just interpret the dream, he understood what God was showing. He saw what had not yet happened. He brought clarity where there was only confusion. And this is where the turning point of the story begins. Because Joseph did not just bring an explanation, he brought a plan. And this plan had stages. First, prepare during abundance. During the 7 good years, store part of the production. Set aside 20%. Now think about this. When everything is going well, no one wants to save. But Joseph knew why. He was protecting the future, he was obeying God's direction. And then he does something even greater. He doesn't just store. He organizes the entire system of Egypt. He creates storage across the cities. He controls inflow and outflow. He defines responsibility. This is not just storing food. This is national-level management. For 7 years, without stopping, he kept this system running. And the Bible says, there came a point when it could no longer be measured. Now comes the second stage, the crisis. And it was not small. It affected other lands as well. People from surrounding regions began to struggle and seek help. But in Egypt, there was food. And that changes everything. Because while the rest faced scarcity, Egypt became the solution. Now comes the strongest part. Joseph opens the storehouses, but not in just any way. He creates a controlled system, and here begins a progression that transforms the entire economy. First, money. People buy food, but time passes, and the money runs out. Then comes the second level, livestock. Now people trade their assets, but the crisis continues. And then comes the third level, land. Now the most valuable resource enters the system. And finally, labor. Now, do you understand what happened here? Step by step, the entire economic structure was centralized. Everything came under Pharaoh's control. This was not random. This was crisis management. Because Joseph needed to guarantee one thing, that the food would last, that the system would not collapse. And here comes the most important question. What if Joseph had not done this? What if he had released everything without control? In a short time, it would be gone, and everyone would return to the same problem. But Joseph thought ahead, and because of that, Egypt did not just survive, it became the center of resources for other nations. People came from far away, because there was a solution there, and Pharaoh himself recognized this, and he placed Joseph as the most important man in Egypt, second only to himself. Now look at this transformation, from betrayed, to leader from slave, to governor from prisoner, to authority. But it doesn't end there. After the crisis, Joseph does something even more strategic. He does not keep everything forever. He creates a permanent system. He returns the land to the people, but establishes a law, 20% for the government, 80% for those who produce. Now, do you understand the level of this? The people work, the government is sustained, the system keeps functioning. This was not just a temporary solution, it was an economic model, a system that was born in a crisis, but continued after it. And all of this began with God. It was God who revealed the dream. It was God who gave wisdom. It was God who showed the way. But Joseph did his part. He acted, he planned, he executed. He was betrayed, sold, imprisoned. But all of this was preparing him, and when the opportunity came, he was ready. Now let me ask you a direct question. If a crisis started today in your life, are you prepared? Or will you be caught by surprise? Because this story proves one thing: crisis does not destroy everyone. It reveals who was prepared and who was not.